Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population and with little or no meaningful engagement leaves a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our say.
Despite a long history of exceptional performance on international stage, Nigeria's women's sports teams, the Super Falcons and the Tigers, have often found themselves battling a different kind of opponent, neglect at home. The Super Falcons, Africa's most successful women's football team, have recorded and won 11 Falcons titles and made 9 appearances, World Cup appearances. Now, the Tigers recently clinched their 5th consecutive Afro-Basket title, dominating African basketball with an unbeaten streak stretching back nearly a decade. Yet these achievements have frequently been met with delayed payment, poor welfare, and lack of consistent support from the authorities. It's often takes public outcry or social media pressure before any reward is announced. Now, following this recent victory, so what does this really mean about the Nigerian reward culture for female athletes and other athletes? So it doesn't look like we're just talking about female, really. It's another episode on your favorite primetime show, Ways. My name is Messi Abopo, and tonight we're discussing the Super Falcons, the rewards of the Super Falcons and the Tigers. Now, remember that Ways is all about you. It means that you are the why in the Ways, the missing ingredient. So join the conversation today and every other time, and head over to our YouTube channel at Official Upgrade TV. Hit the subscribe button, share, and invite your friends to join the show now. I'd like to hear your thoughts when we open up the phone lines. As always, please ponder on my quote for today. Now, sports is not merely entertainment. It is infrastructure, education, diplomacy, youth employment, economic transformation. Under this government, we are repositioning sports, I beg your pardon, for global competitiveness and sustainable growth. This is according to the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Vice President Kashim Shettima. We will delve into this much later, but first off, I need to run on a quick break, and when I return, I'll tell you what I found in the news. Please stay with us. You're still watching Ways, hashtag what are you saying? In case you're tuned in, tonight we're talking about the rewards of the Super Falcons and the Tigers, the female football, I beg your pardon, sports team in the country. Now, following the Super Falcons' 10th WAFCON title and the Tigers' 5th consecutive Afro-Basket Championship, President Bola Tinubu rolled out massive cash rewards of $100,000 for the Falcons as well as the Tigers, including $50,000 per staff. A 3-bedroom flat in the renewed Hope Estate in Abuja, and the national honor of which is of the Officer of the Order of the Niger, that's the OON, conferred on all players and support staff. While many praise this move, others, including retired military and police veterans, have called it a misplaced priority in the country where those who risk their lives for national security are still struggling with unpaid pensions and poor welfare. So the question tonight is Nigeria's reward culture fair? Or are we just celebrating success without building structures that support both athletes and other patriots equally? Now, joining us to make sense of all of this is Mighty George, a sports journalist. Mighty George, thank you so much for being part of the show tonight.
Thank you for having me, Messi. It's great to be here.
All right, so let's start it off on this particular note now with the big question that I'm asking. Do you think that the reward culture that we have experienced with the two game is fair? Or are we just celebrating success without building structures that support both athletes and other patriots?
Well, I think that, first of all, the Renewed Hope administration and that birthed, we've had two administrations of sports, by the way. So sports was one of those that was affected by the reshuffling of, heads of ministries. And that meant that John Owen Eno, who was initially appointed as the Minister of Sports, made way for Madam Shehu Diko, in a proposal that has finally seen the light of day, which is converting the sports ministry to a sports commission. We had this before in the past. I think about, over a decade ago, we had a sports commission. We had Amos Adamu, who was the Director General of the Sports Commission back in the day, but it reverted back to a ministry. I don't feel any grouse against that, but it just shows some inconsistency. Are we running a sports commission? Are we running a ministry in a sports commission? It seems like a sports commission is quite peculiar because you have the tendency to run it more like business. It's just an arm of government that runs sports, and not a parastatal that just has to answer to the whims and caprices or anything that the government says you should do. A commission, formulates policies, has some sort of independence. And I think that we've seen the fruits of this. The fruit is that a man who has, and I'm not blowing his trumpet, Malam Shehu Diko, he was, for 8 years, chairman of the League Management Company, which is the body that runs the Nigerian League. Although we saw a lot of, he went through a lot of pitfalls, which is after the Nigerian League started being broadcast, the broadcasters finally left. So I'm getting somewhere, so I'm trying to talk about the leadership and how we got to this. So Malam Shehu Diko, a football person through and through, was one of those who brought Manchester United and Portsmouth to Nigeria back in 2008. I was very present then at the now Moshood Abiola Stadium. So he's a man who knows his onions in football. And let's take sports. Now, why sports? Why was he appointed the National Sports Commission chairman? Because he had submitted a blueprint for sports in Nigeria some years ago, even under the Buhari administration. It wasn't adopted until the Tinubu administration. So I believe, and I have heard, that he had imputed that reward system for Nigerian sportsmen and women is poor. So is this what they arrived at? Was there a consensus that we're now going to be giving $100,000 to every, continental or global winner, or is this just for continental? What about a team that goes on to win the World Cup or win the World Championship? It's going to be different. Well, that we don't know, because I've not been able to get Malam Shehu Diko to sit down and talk to me about this, or he hasn't really talked to the press about this. But it is what it is. He has likely whispered this to the presidency. I'm not sure that the presidency would have just come up with, you know what, $100,000. Let's give it to them, bam, bam, bam. It must have been some discussion. Can they sustain this? I think since the wave and the heat is on right now, any team that wins a continental or whatever championship at the moment in our major sports. Let's face it, right? Nigeria has strengths in football, in basketball, in weightlifting as well. But weightlifting, unfortunately, we don't see all those major tournaments coming in where Nigerians are galvanized to watch. So is this the rave of or the wind that is blowing at the moment? Yes, it is. Is it too much? To put it side by side with what's going on in the country, I think that every other sector has a right to be offended. I'm telling you. The pensioners who haven't been paid have a right to be offended. The roads that are bad, the transporters have a right to be offended. These days, you cannot travel by road anymore. I was going to Lagos just last week, and I was wondering that, look, I'm based in Uyo. Is it a crime to be based in Uyo and still try to get things done in Lagos and Abuja? You need to spend an average of, for transportation alone, 500,000 naira. Then what about hotel and all of that? Because you need to fly. You can't use the roads. So every sector has a right to be offended. But this is a sports sector. This is a proposal by the sports sector. Sports has been able to galvanize and bring together people. And I think that it touched the president. So maybe I'm not going to speak for the president, but I think that there's some sort of, he took it personal. He took it personal when he announced that reward. You can see he told stories about him not wanting to watch how his wife denied, he couldn't eat food and all of that. So that spur of the moment, that discussion, that, agreement that, okay, we have a spare, well, again, in quotes, I don't think that 4.4 billion is spare, but that was the total amount that was given to the Super Falcons of Nigeria, players and coaches. 4.4 billion naira. What can it do? It can do a lot of things. But I want to believe that there's money elsewhere for us to do a lot of things. I want to believe that there is money put aside for sports as well. I'm very serious, but there should be money to do other things and not just the one that they are giving sports. That's the one that everybody wants to jump in on. Let's task this government about the money for infrastructure. Let's task them about this and that, because it's not going to be quite clever. And I'm sure that this government has had it all figured out to take money from elsewhere, or take money from education, or take money from infrastructure and put it into sports. I want to believe that this money was there somewhere, and they took it and they rewarded this guys.
So you're saying that so in other words, you're saying that this money you think was not budgeted for.
Well, I don't think that 100,000. I'm still asking the stakeholders. I don't think that the 100,000 is what has been arrived at for everyone that wins a gold medal in Nigeria. No, I'm telling you that this was a spur of the moment. It was out of the excitement and all of that. And if I'm to reference what Bayo Onanuga said the other time, you saw his response, and says that if Big Brother Nigeria can give 150 million to the winner, although I didn't even buy that explanation, why are we annoyed that we're giving 150 million to every winner, each player of the Super Falcons? So that in itself is already telling us that I don't think that the presidency and Boy Onanuga think that Big Brother Nigeria is doing anything, or is as engaging, as unifying as football. So, but in a sense, that's just one person they are giving. This one, they are giving 24 people plus the technical crew. So I don't think that this money was what was budgeted for in sports. I think it was taken out of somewhere, whatever funds that they have. But after this rave and this wave, we need to sit down and say, what would be the reward system, the standard? I think that they're racking their brains about that right now. Well, good for the Tigress. It came almost immediately. This happened. There's no way you're going to deny them the $100,000. But what's going to happen soon? Super Falcons, Super Eagles, Team B are playing now in Chan. Unfortunately, those ones, they don't even want to win money. They just lost to Senegal, 1-0, just a few minutes ago. So the guys are not even stepping up, because I am sure, very sure, that if they go on to win the CHAN in Tanzania, Uganda, and Kenya, they'll all get this. And then maybe that time we'll now sit down and say, okay, what would be the reward system? I think that's the way it should be, but I'm not sure that this is what they agreed. This is what's in the RIN's documents. The document for sports by the commission actually is called RINS.
But you know, Mighty George, for those who are putting out this argument, we totally, I mean, it's understandable, and not to say they do not have the right to feel the way they are feeling, because it can be likened to a situation where you have a family, in a family setting, and then you have, you know, a parent or a father attending to a particular child and not attending to the other. They all feel left out. So it's like that kind of scenario. But let's look at the fact that the WAFCON, the Super Falcons over time have won the WAFCON titles. And if you remember vividly, in 2016, 2019, 2022, the Super Falcons had to protest on paid allowances. It took the pressure and cry, you know, an outcry from the public before these bonuses and allowances were paid. So if you juxtapose that, all of these years of neglect, and not including the moral support, I would say that this is the very first time in a long time that we have seen that kind of support, you know, physical support, moral support, including financial, you know, towards the Super Falcons. So again, would you say that...
They have been a team quite neglected, They have been quite neglected for some time. I was just watching, when they said they were going to do a trophy parade, I was praying that it was not going to be the same truck that was used. I think that was in 2010 or 2011. When the Super Falcons won the AFCON, they came back to Nigeria. You see that truck they used to carry cows and cattle? They put them in that truck, and they looked like prisoners. You know, I was tempted to post that on my page, but people would say I'm not a patriot and all of that. Especially when I heard they were going to do a trophy parade, I said, hi, please. I hope that they have gotten something more, decent. That was very demeaning. I'm not even sure what they got, even after they entered that. In fact, one of the Super Falcons, who was the backup goalkeeper, Tochukwu Olehi, was part of that squad. And I remember her picture, you know, taking it in my days with Brilla FM. She looked like a prisoner in that. So I agree that the Super Falcons have been neglected over time. But then some people would argue, can we get all those other ex-players who were neglected? Yes, this is almost like a payment for 10 titles, right? You have won 10 titles. It just happens to fall on these ones, the lucky ones in quote. What about the ex-players? What about the ones that won the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth? How are we going to get them back? Is President Tinubu going to say, okay, all of you come, let's give you money as well? I'm not sure that's going to happen. It looks like it just fell on these guys. But again, I don't think that $100,000 statutory reward for every player who brings a gold medal is going to be sustainable. Obviously not. It took an outcry, like you said. It took agitation for bonuses to be paid. It took agitation as well for the president and the presidency to cash in on the moment and the euphoria and say, you know what, let me do something that would also fascinate the people and the girls. But it's not sustainable. It's not realistic. You know, considering what's going on in the country. Just make sure you give them their bonuses as it went due. We will not have a very massive outcry about rewarding them. It's almost like rewarding them for many years of neglect. So if you do not neglect them, I'm not sure you need to reward them that bountifully. In Nigeria, yes, we're a rich country. There are other countries that can, $100,000 maybe, might not be too much. But $100,000 here, we know what it is, 150. I even have an issue why they even said dollars in the first place. You know, how can a president of a country dollarize, payments, and then said, okay, Naira equivalents. I mean, that was even a flaw in the first place. You should have mentioned Naira. And his advisors didn't do well in that. You should have mentioned Naira. So we need to move forward and find a statutory reward system, but it's not going to be sustainable. It's not going to be fair if you're going to keep giving $100,000 to every continental champion.
Pastor, so let's talk about the delays and all of the delays with the bonus and all of that. I mean, why is that a thing? Because I also remember again when the Tigers at some point they were banned, even 2022, if I'm not mistaken, one of those years, due to administrative issues. It wasn't their fault.
Yeah.
And so why do we...
They boycotted everything, yeah.
So, but why is that really an issue for us when it has to do with sports? And especially for, a continent as ours. We say that, in the entire continent, we're the giant of Africa. So what is the issue with sorting out bonuses, allowances of these players, ensuring that they have a very conducive place to play? What exactly is the issue? Is it that we don't have the resources? Is it that the budgetary allocation is not enough? What exactly do you think that we have been grappling with over the years?
I think we've been grappling with corrupt administrators, those who are entrusted with these monies, find a way of enriching themselves. I mean, isn't that the story of Nigeria anyway? But you see, in sports, it shows. Yeah, it shows, and I dare say in every other facet of Nigerian, life as well. It shows when a healthcare system is nothing to write home about. It shows when you go to the hospitals and there's no power and there are no doctors. Somebody is not doing their job somewhere. Somebody is siphoning money and all of that. So it goes with sports as well. I've happened to work, as a sports administrator, and I do know what it means to deploy monies where monies are supposed to be deployed. So it's like a triangle, the sponsors abroad, and in very more serious and saner climes, sports is driven largely by the private sector. We don't have to wait for government. In fact, all these ones that people are excited, I'm sure other countries are looking at us and like, okay, so government is rewarding and doing all of these things. It happens mostly in Africa. Because abroad and other countries, you have private establishments who are already bankrolling these national teams. And they already know how it's going to go. In fact, they administer these monies directly. The companies, whether it's the Barclays Bank, I mean, I don't want to mention brands, they're administering the monies. They know how much is the allowances of these girls. They've already stipulated, the winning bonuses. They know how much a gold medal is and all of that. If probably you want to award, I've seen in the UK, the best that they give them is award them, national honors. I've never seen the Prime Minister say that we're going to give you £100,000 each. No, because the monies are already sorted. So in Nigeria, the corporate bodies are scared. They have been through hell and back when it comes to giving monies. And the corporate bodies too are even also complicit in this. They are sometimes not sincere, because whoever handles the sponsorship, arm of those companies sometimes also has a deal with these sports federations, especially football in this regard, and before you know, monies are shortchanged. And because of that, over time, the federation, in this case, the NFF, would need to go to government to go and beg cap in hand. Well, they have their allocations, but all these $100,000, this one, that is not part of the allocation. Normally, you take your allocation and then go and look for sponsorship. But now, it's hard to get the sponsorship. We had, and I mentioned this, I think, last week, the last time I was here, we had a former NFF president who was, that guy knew how to move. Amaju Pinnick, before you know, he has gotten this sponsor. So at that time, when the then minister wanted to probe the account and say, give me account of what you are spending, he would tell him, Oga, did you give me money? You did not give me money. And if he wants to try anything, Amadou Pinnick calls Gianni Infantino in FIFA, and FIFA tells you government has no business in running football, and you have to relax. But now that you are collecting money from government, obviously you have to give account. So what am I saying? What I'm saying is, if these corporate bodies had trust in the federations, in the football federation in this regard now, and maybe the basketball federation as well. There's a certain bank that has been really bankrolling, the local league, the women's league. Kudos to them. They doled out money today as well. You see what's happening now. These corporate bodies, before these girls went to the tournament, they didn't bring out this much money. But when they went to win, now we're hearing the other one, it was a telecoms company that splashed the cash on Super Falcons. Where were they when the Super Falcons were going
we will talk about
WAFCON?
this, Mighty George. Let's quickly step on the break right now. When we return, the question you would answer will be, or you continue from where we're there. Please stay with us. Now, thank you so much for staying tuned. If you're tuned in, we're discussing the rewards of the Super Falcons and the Tigress. Now, please, let's hear what you have to say. Remember that you can join the conversation by sending an SMS or WhatsApp to the number 081-8038-46 That's the number to send the messages to. I'd like to take that number again, 081-8038-46 SMS or WhatsApp to that number. What do you think about this money, that the Super Falcons have been rewarded with, and the Tigers as well, including the officials? The phone lines are also open. It means you can call the number 07025007749 or 0701-424-2420. Let's hear your thoughts on this. Mighty George is still here with us. Now, Mighty George, before that break, one of the points you made or you were making is that now we've had the Super Falcons winning and the Tigress, and so far I think you were referencing the Super Falcons, saying that we seem to be seeing brands associating with them and splashing all of the monies and all of the endorsement. The question you ask is where we're there, but is it not very common among, it's just a very common practice or a common theory that nobody really, celebrates a failure, but it doesn't mean that they have been failure. They've been winning. So what made this different? Why do you think that these brands are acknowledging the Super Falcons now, giving them some sort of endorsement and the support they needed before the game?
Well, I would say maybe it's the manner in which they won, coming from 2 goals down. I think the president also referenced that it was not just the win, it was not a routine win. They won. The whole country was, went, haywire, positively. So maybe that. But then again, these brands had this 150 million. They had this 100 million. And I'm sure when the NFF went to them, they did not believe that the NFF would be sincere about it. Except the NFF have lost their marketing, steez. I say again, during the period of Amadou Pinnick, the question was always what he was doing with sponsors' money and what he was doing with FIFA money as well. There is also FIFA money. So that brings us back to your question, why are they owing these? Again, I would say administrators get into football and see the kind of money that, massive cash in football. Now, football is one of the biggest businesses and industries in the world right now. How else would you explain how Cristiano Ronaldo is earning about a billion naira every day, or is that every week, things like that. So there's a lot of money in football, and even on the locals level and in Africa and all of that. I think that they misplace their priorities. You look at sometimes, and it happens everywhere in Nigeria as well. ESTA codes, people just travel for ESTA codes. You see officials a lot more than the athletes as well. So yes, you will not blame these corporate bodies, but we'll still ask them questions. Where were they? They need to invest more in the formative stages. They need to. I remember the last administration tried to adopt an athlete, getting the telecoms companies to adopt the likes of Toby Amusan, the likes of Essie Brume, and all of them, adopt a team. Each, corporate body at least should adopt one team or one athlete that you're funding and sponsoring. I don't know how far that is. I don't know how, what the result has been. I don't know if these athletes and these teams can come out and beat their chest and say this company has been with them. But we need to make it a policy. I think that's what the National Sports Commission is all about right now. From this policy, the RINS document, it has it in there. I was able to browse through it, that they need more private sector investment. So if maybe the likes of these corporate bodies are now giving out these monies, I hope that the National Sports Commission or the NFF is not stopping there and collecting this money for just this competition. I hope they are following up. I hope their marketers are following up and saying, okay, we have our grassroots programs before.
Okay, George, are you still there? As we begin to close this conversation down, would literally need to have a balance. Now, I listened to the coach Rena Wakama while she spoke about, all the winning and where we are right now. Now, one of the things that she talked about was that they didn't have time to prepare for this game. They had just barely 6 weeks to prepare. She talked about preparation as a challenge, as it compared to other countries and other participants, especially within the continent that had, more time. They had more time to prepare for it. So where does the buck lie in terms of preparation, in terms of welfare? Where do we need to address all of this so we can get it? Another answer that she gave, because I mean, as fantastic as it is that she's led the team to winning this title, but you could see the displeasure in her face, and every other time she's asked a question, she just says we need to, we have a long way to go. So all of this remarks, where do we start from? Where do you think that we need to start from to address all of this? The issue of preparing talent ahead, camping, allowances, bonuses. Where do we need to start from to address all of these inadequacies?
There are, and of course you can hear me, there are departments, there are units that are responsible for this. And the problem is that we're just a competition country, Once it's time for competition, hey, everybody starts running around. Okay, where are we going to camp these guys? Where will we do this, do that? It is said that Olympic Games, for instance, starts the year the last one ends. But for Nigeria, they will say there's no money. Again, do you input this in the budget? If you do, are you using it? Because I don't believe that you're not putting it in your budget proposal every year to train athletes. Because if you can train these athletes, obviously, before the tournament, we will not be seeing that rush. We know that they already have been in training and in some sort of camps. But it looks like even if they put them or put this budget proposal, maybe the money has not been released, or maybe when it's released, they decide, you know what, let's keep this money, use it for something else. When it's 2 weeks at a time, we'll just assemble everyone, or when it's 1 week or 1 month at best. It's the same thing that happened with the D-Tigers, and same thing that happened with the Super Falcons as well. And incidentally, they came out, triumphant. So is it that this style is working? When we don't prepare well, we just go in there and win. And maybe when we prepare well, we don't see the results, the Niger way. So I want to believe that there are allocations for this, because the big excuse that they will give us is that there are no money to start camping ahead of time. But I hope that with these, these ladies showing us that, you know what, look at what we can achieve with this little time and little concentration. What do you think we would achieve if we have, you know, a lot more investment? That is what the, you know, the government should be looking at. That's what the federation should look at right now. That's what the corporate bodies should look at. You know, it's no news that we just assemble people like that. And it has to do with a country that also believes a lot in sports. Sports should be removed as being just a leisure to business. All right. So I don't know whether exclusive lease or whatever. Sports is no more just the procreation. It's not the recreational. It is business. And the sooner we realize that this is business and we start running it as business, the better for us. If not, if they say, oh, is it not sports? Or if people are going to tournaments, hold on, we'll give you money later. But it is business, because even aside football, if we can produce track athletes who are running sub-9s, sub-10s, get them to the world stage, you know the ripple effect that would have. Someone like Toby Amosan goes to a golden meet, she wins, she gets $100,000. You know how that would affect her education, her people back at home. These guys are breadwinners. So when you empower them, you're empowering probably a whole family or a whole community. So our administrators need to do better. The government needs to concentrate and know that, you see these sports. This sport that is always uniting us. We need to invest more and, you know, put our eyes on it. And the administrators that get in there should get in there. In fact, they fight for elections, like the EFN. The EFN is one of the biggest headaches right now. Every time they are trying to prove to us that the athletes are the ones at fault, and they are never at fault. You know? It's just that Toby Amosan, like that one now, has not decided that she wants to switch nationality. But everybody else is just tired of them and saying, AFN, you did not log our name. You didn't do this. And the AFN keeps saying, no, it's not us. It's you. You did not do that. You know, so that's another problematic federation.
I mean, George, I can relate with what you're saying, because recently I tried to reach out to one of these authorities, you know, to have them speak about the games, the under-17, if I'm not mistaken, that will be hosted in Nigeria, you know, in Abeokuta sometime. One of these games. And
under-19 athletics.
Exactly. I got a very, very detestful response and all of that. It was totally brash and not something to write home about. And it just left me with a very sour, bitter taste, because again, so I'm just saying this to say, hey, I agree with you, because it looks as though I've had to deal with, you know, them for just a tiny bit. But let's see if we can, you know, connect with a caller, you know, or take a message, one or two, if you can still hear us. 081-803-84663. Numbers to send your messages to. Let's hear what you have to say. 070-250-007749 or 070-1424-24 the numbers to call tonight to be part of the show. We're coasting it down. Mighty George is here. It's been quite insightful, very expository, if you like to say. But you talked about...
I was saying, you know, if we are taking this as a business, we also need to look at the quality of administrators that get in. Now, to get into the Football Federation, you have to win elections. It's always serious politics. It's like, you know, normal politics. And the guys that even come in are sometimes chairman of their local government area, or the House of Assembly member gets into elections to become, you know, representative of...
We seem to have been disconnected right there, but George, we're hoping that you can join us before we disconnect. And if you can hear us, let's share your thoughts on this particular conversation. What exactly do you make of the rewards of the Super Falcons and the Tigers? Now, a lot of people do not know that over time, these... Because, you know, if you watch the game, I mean, I watched the game, and at some point, it's just only humanly that you would, stay at a certain point, less criticism. Because the condition in which these young ladies were out there, and most times, most of our outlets, is not very conducive. It's nothing to write home about. So there's been a lot of conversation flying around as to, what's going on, especially if you look at the current situation of the country right now. Do you think that we should be chunking out that money? It makes a lot of sense. Some of the points that Mighty George has raised is not sustainable. We cannot continue chunking out or just putting out all of this money. Everyone that wins should get 100,000. Do we have like a structure? Is there a policy? What sort of investment do we have in sport? And if there's nothing that should be taken home from here, is the fact that government as always should be interested. If government cannot invest in sport, the bare minimum that they can do is to provide an enabling environment that sports would thrive. And if you even look at sports, because again, I'd like the quotes that, I like the statement made by the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria in the course of awarding the D-Tigress and the entire team and welcoming them, saying, hey, it's for development, sports is this, it's recreation, it's infrastructure. Sport is very critical, it's instrumental for development. And if you look at some of those countries, especially in the global north, some of them have nothing to write home about, not like they have the resources that we do in terms of minerals and what have you. But some of them have been able to sustain their economy because of sport. So again, you ask yourself, what is the big deal? There's so much talent that's going to waste. And we just imagine what would happen if we pay so much attention to sport. The level that, the rate at which crime will reduce. Because sometimes, let's look at the various communities that we have. Even in terms of building infrastructure and all the housing. Most times you go to some communities, they don't even have a football field. I mean, I really don't know. I always say that it looks like I live in a different dispensation or an era. I mean, quite different. Like I'm an alien. That's how I feel sometimes. Because way back, especially in school, from your nursery school to your secondary school and to the university, but most importantly from the nursery to secondary, you find out that sports is very, instrumental. You had inter-house sport. It was a big deal. From there, you begin to develop. These children begin to develop. You begin to see talent and what have you. So I don't think that, again, like we always do, we allow everything for the government to do. You were saying, okay, we're all waiting for government to invest in sport. I think that the government, in her doing or in her biddings, should be able to provide an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive, or for individuals and those who have the resources to develop sports and sports infrastructure across the entire country. This is not a presidential or a federal thing. I think that all hands should be on deck. It's a very vital, space. Imagine what will happen. Well, sometimes you roam on the street, you see, lots of talent. Imagine that we convert all of these talent. Each communities have sports infrastructures. They have football fields. They have, basketball courts. They have table tennis courts, where it's such that you don't have to spend so much money and people can go train and talents can actually be nurtured and, kept on, so that it would do us a lot of good as a country. That is what I am saying here. But, well, that's it. Let's see how all of this pans out. We hope that we would sit back as a country and have a workable and a doable plan and have I'm being told that we'll have a caller now. We'll quickly just take this. Hello. Good evening and thank you for joining. Hello. Hello. Okay. Well, I'd really love to hear your thoughts, and if you're able to, connect before the show actually, we call it a wrap tonight, it would be really great to hear. Hello, we'll try again. The network is not favorable. Hello, can you hear me? Thank you for joining.
Hello, can you hear me?
Loud and clear. Thank you so much. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I can't hear you. I can't hear anything.
Can you hear me? What's your name and where are you calling from? Hello? Oh no, I'm so sorry. I could hear you loud and clear, but unfortunately, the network is not favorable. We have to let this go. But the conversation can continue, via our YouTube page and channel. So all you need to do is just head over and subscribe. The YouTube channel is at Official Upgrade TV, and interact further. Drop a comment, and most importantly, you can also follow us on all of our social media platforms and engage. Remember to like, share, and comment, and invite your friends and family to watch the show. Peradventure they missed it. Now, if you miss our quote for today, this is what we have to say, or this is what the quote says. Sports is not merely entertainment. It is infrastructure, education, diplomacy, youth employment, economic transformation. Now, under this government, we are repositioning sport for global competitiveness and sustainable growth. This is according to the Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Kashim Shettima. Now, I will see you tomorrow. All things being equal, enjoy the rest of your evening. My name is Messi Ebopo. Good night.
Nigeria, by extension Africa, battles a growing youthful population, and with little or no meaningful engagement, lives a ticking time bomb on our hands. We are a blessed continent with great wealth, both in people and material. Our focus on ways remains driving conversations that affects us all. Topics in the news, social concerns, politics, leadership, governance, empowerment, resource management, conflict management, finance, SME sustainability, technological innovation, food security, health, education, brain drain, our well-being, citizenship, and much more. Our goal is to continuously drive these conversations, keep them burning at the table to effect a positive change, both for our nation and continent. Ways, what are you saying, has a secret ingredient that completes the conversation every single episode, and that ingredient is you. Our past conversations shaped our yesterday. To shape our tomorrow, we must keep talking. So, I want to hear you. Be a part of our live conversations Mondays through Fridays. And let's all have our